The American dream. It's what we've been told by politicians and our government to strive for. It's what we say that we work 40 to 60 hours a week for. But now people are starting to catch on, and they're saying that the American dream, at least for the American people, is dead altogether. I want to go through one opinion piece. This was done on Newsweek, and it talks about the strange idea that we could achieve greatness just by slaving away to a defunct economy. Now, this discussion, I want to read some of this for you and maybe talk about a little bit about what we see in here. And then I want to get to something after this that really shows where we're at. Different people over on Reddit talking about how not one single adult in their life is happy with the way things are going. So starting this paper out, it says one of the strangest things about being a working class American is hearing about the American dream when everyone knows the truth. The American dream is dead for us. And I'm going to summarize a little bit here. Everyone defines the American dream in their own way, they say. For some, it's a big house, a fancy car, a country club membership, designer clothes, but most of us, it's just something simple. And for us in the preparedness community, that American dream is probably a piece of property or a garden of your own, maybe having all of your debt paid off. For this individual, they say the dream would be to have their own home, to not worry about being evicted by a landlord, to be able to pay the electricity, the water, the internet, homeschool their child so that they can get to work and have a bit of savings in case that car does break down. So far, this dream, they warn, has eluded them. Not for a lack of trying. They work 3 jobs. They pick up extra work, but they still make just under what the bills come out to every month. The writer says they've thought a lot about this, and the conclusion that they have come to is because they don't have access to real opportunity. That's what they've learned as a lower income American. You don't have the American dream without opportunity. Now, I remember the old saying, right? It takes money to make money. And I think that that is 100% correct, because if you don't have the money to buy the goods to start producing something to sell to someone else, you're not going to be able to do it. It's not very often that you can just walk around this life with talent alone and be able to get ahead, though it does happen. But we're talking about a lottery system here, where not very many people are meant to win. There's one big winner, and then the government taxes that. Unless you get big enough like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, and then they stop taxing you and they just ask you to play their game. They say, would you disagree with the idea? And I want to know your thoughts in the comments. Would you disagree with the idea that every American should have opportunity? Some of us at the bottom don't. And it's not just a dream, it's a fantasy instead. It's being called in our community the American nightmare among the divided states of America. Equal opportunity, they say, means that everyone has an equal chance to reach the height of their ability. But this isn't the case. And they show an image here of a broken and shattered American flag, or a concrete textured flag. If you grew up in the lower income bracket in the 80s, you didn't get to go to college or get a degree. 40 years later, that means you're stuck in a working job. Doesn't have the benefits of a diploma requiring job. That interview that I keep going back to between Theo Vaughn and Mike Rowe of Dirty Jobs, it really hits home for me, because Mike Rowe, he's really a working man's proponent. He really wants to get out there, and for everybody digging poop out of the sewers, putting concrete on the bridges, working in workshops and wood shops, at the car shops, doing all those things, those dirty jobs, what I call the foundation class work. He really stands for those people. And even he today says that this is no longer a possibility. He says that this is a fantasy. And so he understands that. And he was talking a little bit about the dichotomy between Republicans and Democrats, and how if you're on the Democrat side of things, you're always saying, oh, there's not enough opportunity. Like maybe this writer is here on this piece. Oh, there's not enough opportunity. Oh, we need equal rights. And then if you're on the Republican side of things, he says, then you're whining and complaining about people just don't want to work hard enough. They don't want to put in their 80 hours time. They don't want that sweat equity. They don't want to put their blood into that company. And I think that both of these are a purposeful division just to keep us arguing instead of getting ahead. But let's get back to what this writer says. You're stuck at a job. You don't have benefits. The cost of living goes up. Wages stayed the same. Many like me are stuck in a dead-end job with low wages and no way out. And now the American dream became an American nightmare. People say it's not too late to go back to school, but for many of us it is. Imagine you're already working full-time. You're working more than that, 2 to 3 jobs. Let's say you find a way to invest all that time and money into furthering your education. Then, do you even get a job with that education? It's not true that all Americans are given opportunity to pursue this dream. The working class get locked out of opportunities. Now, I see this as a little bit of a kind of a whiny writing. And don't get me wrong, I'm not losing empathy for the people who are out there struggling and trying. Everybody's out there working harder, trying harder, because let's face a very obvious fact here. They ruined your future. They sold it away. They sold it to China. They sold it to all these other countries. They taxed you out of a future. They don't give you opportunity. Those things are true. But this is just kind of whiny instead of discussing what opportunity we have. Because let me tell you something. You can still go today and you can buy a $3,000 to $5,000 acre of land. Do you know what you can grow on an acre of land? 20,000 potatoes. Let's say you sold a potato for 50 cents a piece. On your first harvest, you made double your purchase power back. You doubled it in your first harvest if you did it right. That's opportunity. That's the one that I'm talking about. You don't want them poisoning your children with these chemicals and pesticides that they put into here? Then guess what? Grow your own tomato. But nonetheless, people do whine instead of working. I want to move forward a little bit to Reddit because I think this really touches on the hearts of people. It says, I don't know a single adult who is happy with their life. Since I was a kid, all I've ever heard is life sucks, but get used to it. Or life sucks, but that's just the way. Now that I'm 2 years into adulthood, so this is a young adult, I'm really struggling to find the will to keep going. And this is the real feeling of people in our world. It seems like everyone is miserable from the time they graduate to the time they retire. Nobody's happy to wake up in the morning. No one in life finds fulfillment at work or at home. Now, this is, of course, a huge generalization because we each can, in the eyes and laughter of our children, find great happiness. But they are onto something here. What they're onto is the fact that people have woken up. You remember, I remember growing up in the 80s and 90s in a place like Publix, which is a grocery store if you're not from the South of America. A place like Publix was somewhere that people had pride to start as a cart dragger. They would go out and get the carts. Why? Because they'd work 6 months and then they'd be at the stocking. Then they'd work 6 months and they'd be a cash register. Then they'd work 6 months, they'd be a shift leader. Then they'd work 6 months and they'd be a operations leader. Then they'd work 6 months and then they'd be a store manager. They had opportunity to move up from a very ground level position to get ahead. And so even though they were serving this corporation and corporate greed and profiteering, then they had opportunity of their own. They invested their sweat, their blood, their time, their life. They could get something back, or at least jump the ranks of this chain a little bit. Now that's gone away. I saw that sign I told you about on McDonald's. $13 to start, $15 to be a shift leader. You'll make $16 a day to clean up the diarrhea out of the toilet that your employee won't. For an extra $16 a day, you get to deal with the person who threw coffee at you because they're mad you put extra cheese when they ask for extra pickles. For $16 a day. That's what responsibility is worth to a corporation like McDonald's. This is a problem that we're experiencing, but it's one that we know heads us into the Great Recession, Depression era that we are in. So this person says they've talked to everyone from uncles living in McMansions to coworkers living next to dumpsters behind restaurants. The story is the same. No one actually likes being here on a day-to-day basis. They like the idea of life. They fantasize a life worth living. The alarm goes off in the morning. And they say they don't know a person who thinks waking up is going to be really worthwhile. Now, that's pretty dark. If you, that's real dark. This person probably needs a little bit of faith in their humanity and a little bit of a support structure that they're lacking. But nonetheless, the hustle they are experiencing is one that is in the hearts of many. And so we have to realize that this exists because let me tell you something. If 90% of the population woke up and they said that the sky is white, you got to start thinking, well, these people, they all think the sky is actually white. And you've got to question how much you know about the world. So what we really get into here is the commenters. The commenters say that some adults handle stress, being stressed daily very well compared to others. It's basically who can handle the stress the best because only a few people ever find their dream job. And then we go on to another one. The next one talks about, I'm happy. I wake up with a smile on my face. It is possible. My vision of happiness was at 25, so much different from what I realized 30 years later. Next person goes on to talking about, man, you have to run with a different crowd. I'm happy. So you see, there's a different side of things here. Give it another decade. A lot of us did not find our path until the late 20s. Just another 10 years of your life, folks. Just get back there, work 40 to 60 hours a week, pick up those 3 jobs, and another 10 years of your life, you might think about things differently. It's a little bit of Stockholm syndrome. I hear this sentiment echoed by my peers, but I disagree. Life can be really exciting if you choose for it to be. Now, don't get me wrong. I look at people all around the world, people in India, people in the Philippines, people in Nepal, people who are living truly destitute, poorer than you can imagine lifestyles. And they can find happiness. But they also are very in tune with survival. And what I mean by that is their daily survival is about working that garden. And so when you go out there and you actually work that garden and you take home your food and you cook your food and you feed your family and you've got to wake up again to do it again, that's a very human life. And so that is rewarding and that is inspiring and that you can find happiness. But going to grind your gears for some jagoff who is out there spending the money that he takes away in your taxes, the politicians getting their hooks, all of these different things happening, well, that I can see people getting upset with. Says you have to find time in life for the things to do. Another person says it's because capitalism is at a dead end. It can't provide the basic premises of living a meaningful job. Let's replace one flawed system with another, people say. Communists, they're just calling names. I've been bedridden, this person says, and I'm still happy. So you find happiness in life. 80% of life for most people is dull drudgery. We live for the 15% that's nice and the 5% that's amazing. That's one way to think about it. Some person says get off Reddit, which is maybe a good thing to do. Happy adult here. Human nature is such in the way that we are always looking for the next goal, then the next, then the next. They do say they think it's possible. So here we have a back and forth. Now, what do you think it is? Do you think that this system that they have developed for us is one that is allowing people to find their purpose? Now, for me, I've removed myself from the purpose of being economically happy. And instead, I focus on the joys of life in fatherhood and being a husband, being a survivalist, being a caretaker, being a provider, being a shelter giver, doing those things. That's meaningful to me. And so when I can shut off the economy side of things, then I can find happiness in that. But remember, when we don't get back to our roots as humans, and that's where this revolution talk people are coming into. That's where people are saying we're going to have a Civil War 2.0, is because they've divided us away. They've removed that human part of our life, and instead we become cogs in their machine. And so as people wake up to being cogs in their machine, there's going to be a point in time where that cog breaks, and then another breaks, and then the entire machine falls apart. So these were two a little bit drudgery looking ways that people are experiencing life. But as you can see, there's a lot of people who are just dealing with it. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Are you experiencing people who have this sort of feeling? Do you have these feelings yourself? Do you feel like you can get ahead? And maybe share your thoughts with other people so that they can find ways to find happiness and meaning in the shackles that we have upon us. Thank you guys for being here with us today. We'll see you tomorrow. Full Spectrum Survival on YouTube. Much love from our side to yours. Stay safe.